This is WOJB Reserve, broadcasting from Le Coudray. Greg Brown there with his classic Good Morning Coffee, which is what we're having right now. At least mine isn't going to cool. I want to let you know support for the program comes from a variety of sources, including Telemark Vacation Condominiums, which are, I should say, 2 miles east of Cable, reasonably priced overnight, weekend lodging. Week-long lodging includes a one-day trail pass to the Birkebeiner Trail System, just minutes away by ski or bike. TelemarkCondos.com, 715-798-3999. And my guest this morning here at Koobie's, we're at the corner of County Highways B and K, adjacent to, or just across County Road K from the convenience store, right on the corner here where the coffee is great, and by golly, red beans and rice soup today. I see that up there. Joining me is Cathy Begay. We're going to talk about an invitational art show that is taking place. And first, welcome, Cathy. How are you?
Good morning, Eric. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. That's great. It's a lovely day. Spring has sprung. The maple sap is running, and people are happy about that.
That's what I hear. The sap is flowing.
Well, tell us, this art show, it's an invitational, as I understand. People were invited to submit for judging?
Well, actually, no. It was an invitation by Deanna Pearson, who is an art advocate and also an art store owner in Hayward, Wisconsin. And as she collaborated with the owner of Out of the Woods Winery, he had a wife who had Alzheimer's, but she was also a watercolor painter.
Oh.
And that's what kept her going until the disease took her life. So in her honor, her husband and her 2 sons created a professional gallery. Professional meaning it has the wiring for hanging two-dimensional paintings. It has a professional lighting to enhance the artwork. And I was there a couple of times since last fall, when Deanna had asked me to be part of a 2-person committee to invite LCO artists.
Oh,
and
excellent.
for years, I've been working with the artists here at Le Coudray. And when I heard that Deanna wanted to feature artists from Le Coudray, I jumped on it because we've been elsewhere, but we haven't been in our hometown other than, on the reservation. We have at the landing in the summertime weekly powwows, and the local artists from the reservation will go there and set up their tables and sell their artwork. They've been doing that for years, and finally, recently, we're on the poster that there are artist vendors, and they do sell. They do very well. But last fall, she asked me if I'd help her find some artists, and it did take me up until the deadline. In fact, Deanna extended it another week because she was afraid we weren't going to get enough artists with enough work, because the whole point of the gallery is to feature local artists. This just so happens to be the theme for the next 3 months. The show will end on May 15th, is artists from Le Coudray. And up until the last day, we didn't know if we were going to have one, but we did. And Deanna set up the show. I went there a couple days later, looked at the gallery, and I was very impressed. Originally, she thought maybe 17, 18 artists with that much work, because the whole point of the show, which was what I was saying earlier, is so that local artists, whether they're from Le Coudray, Hayward, Cable, anywhere in this area, can exhibit their artwork. And the people who patronize the winery, because they sell homemade wine and they sell food, so that the patrons can come in and enjoy, just like here at Koobie's with the artwork here, enjoy the artwork, and it's priced, so people can buy it. And the artists keep an eye on it, because if a piece of work sells, they should have something in their inventory to put right back up there, so that the show is ongoing for 3 months.
For 3 months, and that's until May, did you say?
Yeah,
So
the show
it's-
ends
yeah.
May 15th. It started last week. In fact, this Friday we're having an opening.
Oh, wonderful.
at the gallery on Main Street in Hayward from 4 to 6, I believe it is, from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And I forget who she says. Oh, I think the winery sponsors it, hosts this, and provides a little cheese tray and sampling of their wine and whatever. Because it's, it's a business, and that's how they're tracking, and they're also helping the artists in the area.
Yes, very good. Which is, by the way, it's just I think half a block before the post office, if one is going the right way.
Right. If you're standing in front of the post office looking across the street, it's like to your right.
Yeah.
Right on middle of the block there. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lovely place. It's beautiful. It's kind of reminds me of Koobie's here a little bit.
Well, we've noticed some new art, have we not? I don't remember seeing the floral design.
Right, and they have, foods written in, different types of food written in Ojibwe and English, and Nibish for tea, Zinzabakwood for sugar, and Naboob. But I also noticed in the corner over here, and this is what Lekudere itself lacks. We lack a place for artists to sell their work and, for resale. But I see here at Koobie's they have a bookshelf full of beautiful artwork. I was looking at it earlier, and the pricing is just right. It's not too cheap. Because one time I went to a store, I was looking at the items, the artwork, beadwork, birch bark work, paintings, and I picked up a bracelet. It was beautifully beaded, and I looked at the price. I go, $20? I go, what's wrong with it? So that I learned as a marketing person, going to school and all this and that if you price something too low, people aren't going to buy it because they think, just like I thought, what's wrong with it? But I'm Native American. I know beadwork. It was perfect. But I asked the owner of the store, why do you price it so low? She goes, so that people can afford it and buy it. But then on the other hand, that's the beauty of art itself. Art goes up in value, especially after people are gone, unfortunately. I was married to an artist one time, and his artwork sold. Before he'd even get it out, it was gone. And then he passed away. But yeah, once they're gone, all you have left is either their originals or their prints.
And then, yeah. Speaking with Cathy Begay about the art showing, which an opening this Friday evening, 4 until 6, the Out of the Woods Winery on Main Street in Hayward. It's several blocks down. If you've got to the post office, you went too far. Now, who are the artists? There are how many?
Well, actually, there's 6 artists, but 2 of the 6 collaborated on a project. The artists are Kimberly Laranji. She did some paintings of some Native women with their hair long and flowing. I don't know exactly the nature or the theme of her artwork. She was hoping to stop in this morning so she could talk about her paintings. But as you walk into the gallery to the right, that's what you see is 3 of her paintings. Then we have another artist, and unfortunately I haven't met her, but I looked at her artwork. It's beautiful. And her name is Carol Smith. Another one is a young gentleman who does beadwork. He paints. His name is Chamakwa Sugar Bear. He's a young gentleman, and he has some paintings, original paintings, and in his repertoire, he has a whole bunch of prints that I had seen before at another show.
Chamakwa Sugar Bear.
Yep. Big Bear.
Big Bear.
Yeah. And then our 4th artist is a combination between my son, John Anderson, and a friend in the community named Matt Tyson. Matt was visiting my son, John. He was making this Dreamcatcher. Oh. And anyway, this Dreamcatcher ended up to be 3 by 4 feet maybe. And then my son took it and he added cedar to it, cedar boughs. And his whole point was, this is like a living artwork. So as the cedar is drying out, you take it and then you can burn it and use it as a smudge. And cedar grows around here. So in fact, John had got it a couple weeks ago. Another artist is Brandon Fons. He made a spear, a long spear out of birch, and he decorated it with horsehair and beadwork. The beadwork is kind of small because it's a very narrow spear, but it's perfectly done. The beads he chose, the design he made is just exquisite. And then finally, the fifth artist, or the last artist, is myself,
Oh, you.
Cathy Begay, yes.
What have you done?
Well, the invitation that Deanna had sent out was a two-page. One was about the gallery and Patricia MacLaughlin, who was the mother of the watercolor painter.
Yes.
And then she had another page that had, your name as an artist, what you're doing, and, your medium and all this and that. I just lost my thought, Eric.
You were going to tell me what you did?
Oh, yes. Well, see, I always think about everybody else except myself. So anyway, when she first invited me, I went to the gallery to see what it looked like, so I get an idea of the space, and it was perfect. And she had the professional wires that hang on the wall where you can put your pictures. But I make moccasins.
Ah.
I make beaded bags out of deerskin. Once upon a time, when I was married, my husband and I, we tanned our own deer hides because he was a hunter and a fisherman. We had all these deer hides, and I looked at him, I says, well, why don't we learn how to tan them? So we did. We asked a few local people, and this was quite a few years ago. And we asked older people in our community, and they gave us bits and pieces, and we learned it. So we were tanning deer hides, and I was making things. But anyway, he's passed away. I don't tan hides by myself. My children want me to teach them, but I says, that's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Just like when we tap trees in the woods here, it's a lot of work, but it's good, healthy work. We're using our bodies, we're in the fresh air. And so anyway, I made 3 pairs of moccasins. And I made them for a baby and 2 of them for children. And those are really the popular moccasins that I do make for people when they order them. Babies are the most common, and then children, and they wear theirs out. And then the last pair, and those are my most expensive ones, are for the adults. And I make them in the variety of styles. We have a seam in the toe type, and then we have the kind where it's made out of 2 pieces of the moccasin are made out of black velvet, and you bead that pieces. But as I'm working and sewing, it's like, the thoughts that run through my mind, and that's why I do that. I think that's why artists work, is either they're escaping and they're trying to create something beautiful and better so that we can appreciate and enjoy life. And that's what I do with artwork. And I did a small little write-up. I don't know if it's in the paper yet for the Sawyer County Record, but I said that our artwork reflects all of creation. And even if they are paintings, it's what they're drawing. It reflects our culture. It reflects everything that's been created, and that we're all connected. That was my point of the art show, is to bring in a variety of artists so that we can show people we really are connected here with the animals, the plants, and the people.
What is, you mentioned the Dreamcatcher that your son John was involved in making. What is many people see them. Could you refresh recollections about what is a Dreamcatcher, why?
Okay. A Dreamcatcher is made out of usually willow, red willow. You make it round, and then you add, maybe a long time ago they used sinew from a deer, but now we use that commercial sinew, and you weave it. You can weave maybe like lacing or crocheting. People do around the world, people do all kinds of making the fabric or one time I was crocheting and I was thinking, you know what? I'm actually making the fabric and the item, So that's what we do too with the natural things in our environment, is that we create. But anyway, the Dreamcatcher, and there's 2 versions. They're either catching the bad dreams or they're catching the good dreams. Mm-hmm. But the whole point is so that you put it above where you sleep. so that it will catch either your bad dreams or your good dreams.
Mhm.
and and they usually do you usually do fresh. You go out in the woods, you get the fresh things because those are living things. They have a spirit. And the spirit in that item is what is also helping to catch those dreams.
Oh, hence the reason that your son John Anderson is put cedar in, so that will be fresh for a time,
And you can use
and then
it.
you can use it as well as a smudge.
He put that Dreamcatcher on my wall in my small apartment. I says, "Holy cow, John, that's beautiful." Just the Dreamcatcher alone was just the rounded wood and with the weaving in the middle of it. But when I seen it with the cedar, it was like, wow, this is really a living thing. And so the cedar too is good because that's a good cleansing when you make a smudge out of it.
Now you had mentioned that the one of the hosts of the at the Out of the Woods Winery, whose wife had Alzheimer's disease, and this is sort of a memorial to her, memoriam, kind of a way of keeping her spirit alive.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then the opening is this Friday evening, 4 till 6. and
Exactly.
It'll be hosted by the winery itself, and then it'll continue through the 15th of May. 15th of
Eric, I'm so happy. One of
15th
the
of May.
artists is here. And she
Oh.
was the first one I mentioned because when you walk into the gallery, you see 3 of her paintings, and they're of Native women. But I don't know the theme of it. I wasn't able to talk to Kim because she's a
Oh.
busy lady.
yes.
But
Hi,
please,
Kim.
if this is about the LCO
Hi.
artists,
Hi,
please
join us for a
meet
moment, Kim.
Kimberly
Kim-
Laranji.
Hi.
Good
Kim.
morning. Thank you for having
Nice
me.
to see you. And yours, 3 paintings, I understand, immediately when you step inside the door to your right.
I have not been home. As you know, Cathy was mentioning I was busy. I've been out racing motorcycles across the country.
Zoom.
Yes, from California. I had training in Florida. I stepped in yesterday just to come and check it out. I'm going to actually head out to the gallery now.
Okay.
But I do believe I know the painting she's speaking of. One of them would be a young woman in headdress, which is not traditional for women to wear. However, these days, women are leaders. We are warriors. And we absolutely, I felt that it was a very, I was a little afraid when I first painted it, just because I know that wearing a headdress, you earn the right for it in the Ogeechee Society, which is our warrior society. So I just felt very moved to paint a woman with a headdress, and I painted the war bonnet on her, and then at the ends of it there's lightning strikes that are coming out of the feathers, and I just felt that it was a very important statement for Native American women, as we are leaders now. And we're in charge of a lot of things, and in ways we are warrior, and that's what we named our race team, Warrior Women Racing. So we have all Ojibwe race team right now. We have 3 women, so we're looking to build the team, but that's really what inspired me, was the fact that I had these 2 young women. They were really wanting to get out there. Arden, my daughter, and I, we just set a world record by being the only mother-daughter sidecar team in the world, and we raced
Wow.
in Savannah just a couple of weeks ago. We're racing again in South Carolina in 2 weeks. So that's really what inspired the Warrior Women painting. And then the other one, I actually was sitting, I painted those 2 paintings with the women facing the horizon, I think 2 nights after my mom had passed. And I didn't really have a direction, but I think that what it was is that I had gone to coffee with another Native American woman in Chicago because I was feeling a bit detached, with a young woman named Jane Blacker. And her mom is Mavis Nakanish, who used to work at the Field Museum and do a lot of stuff through the American Indian Center. And we were identifying with each other as young women, and basically talking about how our skill sets were so much different than our mothers. And we talked about our mothers being the generations of survivors, because these are the women in the 40s and 50s that were repressed as women. They were Native American women. They were expected to be in the kitchen. They took care of the families. You know, our women have suffered a lot of abuse and not enough recognition over the decades. So when I thought about the grandmothers, we talked about that our grandmothers were the survivors, and that picture of the grandmothers looking into the horizon, how there's only 3 of them, their horizon kind of has a mute color. It's like more of a darker purple, you know, where you can't really see. And then the next one goes to the darker haired women that are looking into this horizon that's red with these speckles of hot pink and some gold in there. And then there's 7 of those women. So those represent the 7 generations and the 7 fires, and that those women are now the new women. And those skill sets are the women that have the skill sets of being the survivors. And what we meant by that is that Jane and I talked that we were that generation of survivors. We were brought up by these women who went through surviving all these decades of generational abuse, and now here we are in 2020. We are now the daughters of those women. We're strong. We're not exactly easy to be in a relationship. We don't settle for anything. So now we're actually at that generation of healing. So one of them is called mothers, and one of them is called daughters. And I think that the inspiration was just Native American women and all the decades that we've gone through. So the grandmothers are definitely the women that are survivors, and the young women we're the women of the generation of healing.
Of healing.
So I believe that's what I'm guessing is in the window,
Yes.
since you said women. I know that I have a couple of shows happening, and again, I will not be at this next gallery opening. I'm leaving back for Florida tomorrow. The drag races are this weekend. So I'm getting all the practice I can get in.
What kind of bike are you riding? Can I ask? Or
Yes,
different?
nowadays I am racing a 1981 GS 450. I'm actually going to leave here and go put the engine in it because I blew the engine up in California on the Laguna Seca racetrack about a month ago. So I thought that I'd do the engine and check in on the art gallery today. And then I'm loading up in the new race van tomorrow and headed back to South Florida for 5 more weeks of practice.
Yeah, well, you know, in spring, a young man's fancy, and maybe now women as well, I should say, turns to motorcycles, doesn't it?
Well, when you look around, there's definitely a larger representation of women out there. You know, I am always amazed of the very amazing, strong women that I've been able to even ride with, like a young lady who rides the Wall of Death. Her name is Corina Manilow.
Is this the big circular, the ball?
That's actually the Globe of Death,
Globe
and the
of-
motocross racers ride that. The Wall of Death are these older, they ride Indians, pre-1941 hand shift Indians, and they ride it on the old track wall in a cylinder.
Oh, yes.
So they actually start at the base of what looks like a carnival ride, and then they will actually ride on the wall by the end of it. So those people are Charlie Ransom and Wes Connolly.
Well, you've inspired me a little later this morning, Kim. I'll be hosting a portion of the music program. There's a British songwriter, guitarist, Richard Thompson, who has a song called The Wall of Death. About
Yes.
Motorcycle.
I
riding.
don't
We'll have to
think-
look into that, but we digress away from the art show. Now, you won't be there this Friday evening because
I
you'll
will
be
not.
on the road.
I'm training, but I felt that
Yeah.
having the artwork there was most representation of our artwork in the community. And as I was listening on the way in, because my daughter woke me up, I'm running a little late, and I'm in a different time zone now. I was really listening, and Cathy is right. We have a multitude of so many talented artists, and a lot of our teachings, they are attached to the artwork as well. Even though, their paintings, they were very spiritual to me in nature, and they had a lot to do with healing. And I really feel like that's what a lot of Indigenous artists are about, is that feeling, the healing, that good feeling that you have with your energy that you put into your artwork. A lot of time us beaters, we pray. So sometimes if I'm feeling a little derailed in my own life and staticky, I will put the work of someone else down until I feel better, because I understand that energy transfers.
Well, Kim Larange, thank you very, very much. Cathy, further about the event, there are 6 artists, 2 of you here, and the display goes on until May the 15th.
Until May 15th. So if one of our artists here, Kimberly Laranji, has to leave today, I just have to remind her the gallery doesn't open until 11 because it is a winery, it is a restaurant, and so they stay open late in the evening. But the show will be exhibited until May 15th, so she'll have time to come back and bring her friends, patronize the winery and the restaurant.
You know what? There's a lot of people actually interested in that, so maybe we will have the Florida people come up and take a look. But definitely, it's really important that you support your local artists. All my proceeds will go to racing.
Yeah, I'd like to add that as far as the artists, 80% of the sale of your item is yours, and then 20% goes to the gallery.
To the gallery itself, yeah.
And what they do with that, I don't know, but I did read something up about Deanna. She also has art exhibits in the Art Beat store she owns, and I was reading that the proceeds from those sales go towards the Park Theater or the Park Center.
Oh, excellent. And Artbeat is a location to buy tickets for events that take place at the Park Center as well.
But I'm hoping after May 15th, the show does very well and that we'll be invited again, and I'm sure we'll probably have another group of artists, or maybe we'll continue to carry the 6 or 7 that we have now, and maybe we'll reach that where there's 17, 18 different artists, so you could see all their different styles and see how we really are all connected. And I like how Kim brought out the fact that, you know, the theme of hers was women, you know, and emotion and feeling, and we're now in the day and age, and just this week there was a big, huge march somewhere in some country. Was it
in Mexico, and there was International Women's Day, I
Yes.
believe, Sunday.
Yeah,
Yes,
and I
this
did a quick
weekend.
little tally of our artists. We have 3 females and 4 men. And that's really well. And women really are the backbone to our culture here at Le Coudray. And it only takes a few women. So if there's only 3 and there's 4 men, those 3 women are very strong.
Yeah, well, if
think
you want to
that's a
get
bit of
something
an
done, contact a woman.
Oh, Kim is saying it's a bit of an understatement. They are very strong. Yeah.
Well, and I think the saying goes that if you want something done right, get a woman to do
Maybe
it.
that's it. If you want it done right, if you want it done well. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, both of you, Cathy Begay.
Thank you for the
Kim,
invitation.
thank
and
you.
I hope that
Thank
all the
you.
people that listen to WJB will patronize Out of the Woods Winery and continue to check out the shows they have. There's 4 3-month shows a year. So after May, there'll be another one up.
Not only that, it's important to say to support your local artist, and every time that you're buying from a Native American artist, you are buying an American-made item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Be
Thank
good,
you,
Sharon.
Cathy.